Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the Should Have Gone Pro podcast. Hope everyone's doing well, having a good week so far. We are coming to you with a mixed bag today of sports goodies, as you will. We're gonna talk a little UFC for the first time ever. Neither of us are the highest expertise in UFC, but there's a big fight this weekend, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit. The MLB lockout obviously is big in the news right now, and we're going to give an outsider's opinion on that. And obviously, again, we don't know all the crazy details about that because it can be a little hard to understand. But we'll give a dumbed-down outsider perspective of it and see how we feel about it. And then for our local fans that are around the Illinois area where we're at, we're going to talk some Arch Madness, which is happening this weekend, the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. Has some fun with that. So, Brock, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, no, big weekend. Big weekend in sports, like you mentioned. Pretty stacked UFC card this Saturday, and then Arch Madness is always fun. Yeah, we're obviously both Bradley guys, so they kind of know who we're rooting for. But that other school plays tonight, and I think they were losing the last I checked. So, but yeah, no, big weekend. Hopefully, see if Bradley can punch the ticket and get a trip back to the big dance.
Yeah, I was pretty upset. Well, we won the back-to-back Missouri Valley titles. The first one was amazing, and I went to their actual March Madness game in Des Moines. They lost to Michigan State, but it was still pretty cool. And they got there pretty close too. So, and then last year, not last year, but their second year they won it was the 2020 COVID year. So, I was pretty upset about that, not having us be able to play in that. So it'd be pretty cool to get a little redemption arc and go back this year and see how that goes. Because that was a lot of fun. The one year that I did get to watch them. But yeah, starting off with the slate this weekend. Again, we are not huge UFC extraordinaires, but we do dabble in the sport a little bit. Obviously the huge fight this weekend is the Greg Hardy fight, right? No, yeah. It's funny to watch him thinking about him being in the NFL and stuff. And I remember Brock and I met up last summer and we watched the McGregor fight, and Hardy was one of the undercards, and that was pretty embarrassing for Greg Hardy. It was kind of funny to watch. But the big fight this weekend, the main card is Masvidal and Covington. Some bigger names there. Obviously, Jorge Masvidal, one of the bigger names in the sport. If I had to take one, obviously I don't know a ton about UFC, but I would lean towards Masvidal. I feel like his experience on the big stage is a little bit more than Covington's. He's got a little bit of a longer reach as well. I always tend to like the lean with the guys with the bigger reach. And he is better at his significant strikes. Seem to hit more. So I probably like a dummy reading this off my phone right now, but I did a little bit of looking beforehand, and I feel pretty good picking Masvidal here. He have a lot more fights. He's 35-15 compared to Covington's 16-3. I think this just comes with who he's fought recently, and again, he's been on a bigger stage more often, and well over double the amount of fights Covington has. So I think I would lean towards Masvidal here. Probably sound like a casual right now to the UFC fans. They're like, you're not even talking legit stuff. But what's your perspective on it? I know I'll be tuning in, and I'll say this is gonna sound kind of weird, but the UFC 4 on PlayStation came out for free this past month, so I got it. I was playing with my buddies on there, and that game's a lot of fun. But when you get to the ground stuff, I have no idea how that stuff works with like the pending and the submissions and everything. So if anybody would like to enlighten me on that, that would be great. But it is pretty fun, and I enjoy watching the fights. So. Brock, what is your perspective on this? How are you feeling about the fight this weekend? We got one of the bigger cards so far.
First off, love the UFC video games. Great job, and I will happily, Eric, put you through a clinic on the ground in UFC 4.
Say
But no, I
less.
mean, obviously the big one is Covington Masvidal. Um, I think never was a big UFC fan until about 2 or 3 years ago. When the first fight I ever watched was when Colby Covington fought Kamaru Usman the first time back in December, I think 2019, 2020 maybe. Um, and obviously, I mean, one of the best fights. I think it was the perfect fight to kind of get introduced into the sport with. Um, and I mean, yeah, these guys, I think the big storyline going into this fight is obviously, former roommates. I mean, from everything they've said, former best friends. And now they absolutely hate each other. I've been listening to their interviews all week, both absolutely hilarious. I mean,
Mm.
Colby Covington, one of the most controversial, I think, UFC fighters out there right now. Some of the stuff he says, rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Me personally, I think he's pretty entertaining. And I mean, I like watching him fight. Um, I think this is just such a great storyline. I could honestly see this fight going either way. Colby Covington, a 310 favorite right now over Masvidal. Earlier in the week, I think I tended to lean a lot more towards Covington, but the more I think about it, I mean, I don't know. Jorge Masvidal has the ability to just turn anybody's lights out at any time, and I mean, obviously, both coming off of Masvidal coming off of two straight losses to Usman. Covington is 1-2 in his last three fights, both of his losses coming to Kamaru Usman. Um, so I mean, I think it's going to be so interesting to see how this fight plays out because Masvidal obviously so much better on the feet. Covington more of a wrestler, a grappler. Going to look to take Masvidal down. I just really don't think he's going to be able to do it. I mean, Usman's the champion for a reason. And I mean, I watched the Usman Masvidal fight the first time, and every time Usman took him down, Masvidal was able to just pop right back up, and that was on 6 days' notice. And obviously, Usman's a lot better than Colby Covington. Um, I'm just so excited for this fight. I mean, it's only March, and I think this could easily be a fight of the year candidate right off the bat.
Mm.
Such an exciting fight. I knew it was sometime in March, but I didn't know it was this weekend. And I've been locked in on Saturday since Monday. So I'm excited for this one. In terms of my prediction, I just think that in the early rounds, it's going to lean more towards Masvidal just because Colby Covington has a lot better of a gas tank and a lot more of an endurance. You hear that talked about in sports all the time, the gas tank. So I think he's going to be able to outlast Masvidal. But I mean, it's in an instant it can be over. I mean, Jorge Masvidal had one of the greatest 2019s of any fighter. I mean, he had the flying knee against Ben Askren, the fastest knockout in UFC history. If you haven't watched
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
clip or seen it, it's absolutely insane. I mean, just sprints across the octagon, knee to the chin. And I mean, never seen anybody get knocked out like that, just stiff as a board. It was crazy. Knocked out Darren Till in England. Obviously had the backstage incident with Leon Edwards, the three piece with the soda. That's legendary. If you haven't seen that clip, also great. And then beat Nate Diaz for the BMF title, which I was hoping that would be on the line in this fight, but I guess that's just Masvidal's to hold on to forever. Deservedly so. I mean, the guy's a badass. But I mean, I think give me Covington in this fight. I don't know why. I mean, I just think in terms of the striking and stand-up game, he is not nearly on the level that Masvidal is. But I just look for this. I don't think this fight's going to be a quick fight by any means. And I think Colby Covington's just going to be able to take Jorge Masvidal into some deep water late in that fight and just sort of outlast him. But it would not at all shock me if this fight was a round or two and Masvidal had Colby Covington's head bouncing off the canvas. But I mean, I'm excited for this fight. I'm a big Conor McGregor fan, and this is one of the most excited I've been about a fight since he came back and fought Cowboy. And I mean, I'm just amped up for this fight. I really don't know what else there is to say about it. I can't. Saturday can't come soon enough.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to list you as our UFC correspondent as well because you did a great analysis of that one. I didn't even know about that storyline with them being roommates and everything. That's a pretty crazy story arc to get to where they are now. But yeah, I think from the fights that I've watched and everything, it's that main thing is the endurance in that gas tank, and being able to keep yourself afloat and not fall too deep into the momentum. Um, so I do think that's going to be one of those big factors as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm looking to learn more about the sport, and yeah, should be a fun one. We also have the MLB lockout has been going on. They officially canceled opening day and the first two series of the season. So about a week or so of games. Um, in the grand scheme of things, they do play 162 games, so it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Um, but this is the first time in a while that we've had to deal with something like this in baseball. Um, and it's been a lot of talks back and forth, the players and the owners, and um, I see reports of them talking late into the night and having several conversations a day, and they still weren't able to get to an agreement by that deadline. So kind of unfortunate that this is the way things kind of panned out. As of right now, it seems like they were moving in the right direction, but there's still some distance. Um, a lot of it has to deal with the um, how much money they can spend before going into the luxury tax, as far as player salaries, um, and then some arbitration rules as well. Those were kind of the two big things on the agenda, and um, it sounds like they're still a good ways apart. It's frustrating to hear from a fan perspective that we're going to be missing games, and that these guys are really upset with Rob Manfred. I mean, I saw several players, especially Marcus Stroman, was very upset on Twitter, bashing Rob Manfred, calling for his job, and it's just kind of an ugly situation that has to be dealt with. So I'm hoping we can get through it quick and they can come to an agreement. How do you feel about what's been happening with the lockout and your stance on the whole situation?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Rob Manfred is easily the worst commissioner. And I mean, in any sport, the guy just doesn't seem to get it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you can't let this happen. Your sport's already waning in terms of popularity. People are calling it boring, not as popular as it once was. And I mean, this is only gonna hurt the sport. I mean, not being able to play the first two series of the season, which again, not that much in the grand scheme of things. They're probably, I mean, that's only going to be about maybe 7 games. But I mean, it adds up, and I mean, they haven't even reached a deal yet, so who knows how many more they're going to postpone. And yeah, you mentioned the competitive balance tax, I believe it's called. So they just wanted to raise how much money, like you said, you could spend before going into the luxury tax, which I think that I could see how the owners and certain people could be upset by that. Because I mean, when you have those big market teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees who seem to have unlimited pockets, I mean, it really only does benefit. It seems to only really benefit them. That's just me from an outsider's perspective. I could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of the way I see it. It almost feels like you're rewarding the big market teams who are able to spend so much more money than the little guys. And then, yeah, you mentioned the arbitration. Again, the MLB, I mean, MLB has just kind of been screwing some of their players with this. I remember flashback to 2015 with Chris Bryant. I mean, Chris Bryant was clearly the best player, the best prospect in baseball. And in spring training, he went nuts, was just raking, hitting home runs, doing everything. And then the Cubs sent him back down to the minors for the first month of the season, and then called him up so they could get an extra year of his service time. And I mean, he took him to court. It's been an issue with a couple players since then. And I mean, the players were arguing to get that lower, which I completely agree with. I think that's BS that they can do that. And I mean, Chris Bryant deserved to be in the MLB on the Cubs opening day roster, and he wasn't. I mean, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I mean, that means they have to stay with that team, and they're under another year of team control. So they can't go chase that lucrative contract and free agency if they don't want to stay with that team or don't reach an extension with that team. Which actually, I think in the MLB, I don't know if you can. It's just weird how the whole arbitration thing works. No other sport really has that at all. That you can't sign with another team until after, I think it's 6 years of service time. So they're trying to get that lower. I think it maybe to 4 or 5 years, which I think is fair. And then the article I was reading said that they tried to raise the minimum salary that you can pay a player to $700K. I'm all for it. These owners make so much money a year. I mean, pay the guys, pay them what they're worth. I mean, not everybody in the sport is making what Mike Trout money, Clayton Kerr, or not Juan Soto money. Some of these big name phenom young talents, and I mean there are some. It's the same thing with the NFL. I mean, there's some of these small fries out there that aren't necessarily a household name getting paid the minimum salary, but I mean they're still coming out here, putting in hard work. They're still a professional athlete. They deserve to be somewhat more fairly compensated than that. And I mean, I think the MLB Players Association and just the MLB in general, I think they do need to start doing something for those minor league players who make just terrible money. And I mean, I get it that obviously, they're not in the major leagues, but these guys should deserve to get some sort of money. I mean, this is their job. They should make enough money playing in the minors to live comfortably in life. And I mean, you think about it, not everybody is a stud prospect, a top prospect with a clear shot at the majors. I mean, there's some of these guys who are 10, 15 years in the minor leagues not making any money. And I mean, it's just unfortunate to see that because, I mean, again, it is their job. And I mean, they're still working hard, even in the off season, to improve and I mean, be the best player that they could be, even if it is on a little bit smaller of a scale. So yeah, I think MLB situation just so weird. And I mean, I just think it sucks because I mean, so many players aren't signed yet. I mean, when they went into the lockdown, I mean, I know just off the top of my head, I mean, Carlos Correa hasn't signed with a team yet. I mean, I don't think Clayton Kershaw signed with the team yet. I mean, it's just going to beg the question, like, what's going to happen when some of these guys, I mean, they're going to get signed in the season and just have to, be ready to go. I mean, pack your bags and here you go. I mean, so I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front, but obviously such an unfortunate situation. I mean, I personally, I love baseball. I'll watch it on TV. I'll listen to it on the radio. I don't know why, but I mean, I just love the game. I mean, I don't think anything beats going to a major league game in person, but I mean, yeah, like I said, on the TV, listen to it on the radio. I love the sport. And I mean, obviously seeing the Cubbies win the World Series in 2016 was a highlight, but I mean, I enjoy the sport of baseball. I think it's fun. It's definitely not for everybody. And if you're the commissioner of a league that's already struggling to get new fans and keep fans around and create engagement and excitement, I mean, this seems like a worst case scenario for you as a league when, yeah, this is a perfect time for Major League Baseball to take off. There's really no other sports going on aside from March Madness, but that's over in April. And I mean, you've got all this time before the draft, free agency in the MLB, the NBA, the playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, this is a time for the MLB to get some viewership and draw people in. And then you're missing out on games, you're missing out on spring training, and you're missing out on money for revenue and stuff. And I mean, it just sucks. Hopefully they can get something resolved here soon and get the season back on track.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic when you talk about them arguing about money when they're going to lose money by canceling games. So, yeah, I really do agree with the minor league situation being a big mess, and a lot of guys just seem to get stuck in that system and can never find their way out, or never get that realization that they're not going to reach the majors, and the money situation makes it tough for these guys just trying to chase their dreams, and they get stuck in financial issues and have a lot of problems. So it's really unfortunate that that's the way it's set up like that. The arbitration, like you mentioned, is the MLB just keeps everything super complex. I think they should take some lessons from the NBA, NFL, and stuff like that, as far as setting that salary cap, trying to keep that competitive balance, as you mentioned. And the arbitration, I understand if you brought someone up all the way through the minors and then they get to your major league team and then they have like one good year and they dip. That's kind of a little frustrating from a franchise standpoint. But at the same time, the service years and everything too it just seems like it's a system that needs some reworking. So, and they do have that big problem with teams like the Yankees, Dodgers, just having way too much money to spend compared to other teams. And I mean, if you watch Moneyball, that's a little bit of an exaggerated version of what they actually have to go through for those smaller market teams. So it's it's a big mess, and I hope they can get to a solution soon. I totally feel for the players who, at the end of the day, just want to play baseball and get recognized for what they do. And they see other sports, these dudes getting major contracts, and I mean, obviously the big guys are, but um, everybody wants their slice of the pie. So, and there's a part of it too where the owners just can get too greedy and um, want too much money for themselves, and it's really just a really complicated mess. Um, it kind of feels like when you're like going through old stuff in your attic and you find like a cord that's like super tangled and you can't untangle the cord. It's kind of what it feels like with the situation because there's just so much going on that you try and pull on one part of the cord to undo it, and there's another part stuck to. It's kind of what it feels like to me. I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but that felt right to me. So hopefully that relayed enough. But um, yeah, as a fan, it hurts too. And I know Manfred came out and said that their top concern with delaying the season was the fans, and it was like, well, if that was the case, then I mean, you'd be doing some more about it. But it is what it is. We'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully they don't cancel much more of the season. Again, there is a crap ton of games in the season. I think I've always thought there's too many games in baseball. Um, 162 just seems like a lot, and it seems like there's very little meaning in like a random game in June. Especially when you get down the stretch, if you're playing some non division team and you're just playing some random game, it doesn't really hold a ton of meaning. Like, okay, I lost, on to the next one. But um, it's interesting to follow along regardless. And I've been getting a lot more into baseball too, over the past few years, and I was really looking forward to this season because Tiger's actually looking pretty decent. So, but but yeah, hopefully we'll have the season sooner rather than later. But yeah, the big thing too, like you mentioned, was the free agents. There's tons of guys out there like all-star caliber guys that don't have a team yet, and it's it's you have to go in there in very short notice and pick up the bat and get playing if once they sign their deal. So um, I think it will be kind of fun from a fan standpoint once they agree on something and the lockout ends, because we're just kind of a flurry of baseball news and free agency signings, and that should be a lot of fun. So hopefully that's sooner rather than later, though. But yeah, we'll talk about that if things progress on it and change, and hopefully we don't have to be angry at the MLB for much longer. But the last thing we wanted to talk about was for our local fans. We thought we'd give you a little local taste since the March Madness in St. Louis, Arch Madness, decided to do theirs. They did theirs a week before the major conferences do. So it's kind of fun from a fan standpoint of a team in Missouri Valley because they get their own weekend to this, and the next weekend obviously is all the big ones, Big Ten, SEC, ACC, all that kind of stuff. So, um, but yeah, it's looking at Arch Madness this year. I know some games going on right now. I'm not sure what the scores are as we've started the podcast, but
Illinois State is winning 55-53 right now with about a minute 10 left in the second half. Yeah, it's weird to say half, but yeah, second half.
yeah, okay. But yeah, looking back at this season, it seems pretty similar to a lot of recent years with there's there's a very definitive bottom of the conference and a very definitive top, with some couple guys that can sneak in there. But for the most part, we have the Loyola, Northern Iowa, um, these kind of staples in the valley that have been up at the top in recent years. Missouri State being up there. So looking at the bracket right now, the UNI is number 1, number 2 Missouri State, 3 is Drake. They've been playing really well the last few years as well. 4 Loyola, and then our guys, Bradley at number 5. So How you feeling about this year's Arch Madness? What are you thinking is going to go down here? And do you think we'll see a familiar name in March Madness from our conference again?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's always some level of excitement when it comes to Arch Madness. I mean, in 2020, I mean, Bradley, you can say got lucky, but they still showed up and played. But I mean, Northern Iowa got knocked out in the quarterfinals, I believe. Then I think Bradley played like Valparaiso or something in the championship game, and I mean, no one expected Valparaiso to do that. And I mean, it's just crazy. I feel like I mean, the old saying is, the valley runs deep. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And I think that's what's so exciting, not only about these conference tournaments, especially Arch Madness, where you have to win to get in, unless you're a Loyola who's had some postseason success, even Northern Iowa. But I mean, and even especially March Madness, I mean, if you catch a team on a bad night, they're going home, and that's what just makes it so it doesn't matter how good you are. But I mean, it feels like something crazy always happens. I mean, Bradley beat Loyola on the road this year earlier in this late, like toward the end part of the season when Bradley really started playing well and really picked it up. And then if I do remember correctly, Bradley had a big lead against Loyola in Carver Arena earlier on in the season and kind of let it slip away and let Loyola get back into the game and ultimately win it. So I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
Bradley's had Loyola's number this year. I think they're a little bit nervous that that's who they drew in the first round, or I guess not in the first round, but in their first game of the Arch Madness.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look, both teams, a lot of talent. Couple first teamers for Bradley and Loyola. Terry Roberts also was on I think it was All Valley newcomer this year. Came over from Florida Southwestern as a transfer. And I think that's always big for Missouri Valley, getting those guys in the transfer portal has been incredible this year. And then obviously Lucas Williamson, if it feels like the guy's been in the Valley forever, it's because he has. He's a graduate. He was, I think, a freshman on that Loyola team that made the miraculous that run to the Final Four, which was just nuts. I remember watching one of those games in B-dubs against Tennessee. I watched the game against Miami when that kid hit the game-winning three. I watched when Clayton Custer pulled up from the free throw line to beat Tennessee. I mean, just incredible. I mean, talent all throughout this thing. I mean, throughout it really. I mean, AJ Green from Northern Iowa, household name guy, won another Larry Bird Valley Player of the Year trophy, first teamer. I think the team to really watch out for this year, though, is Missouri State. I mean, they're the only team in the Valley with two guys on the all-conference first team. Isaiah Mosley, a great guard, and Gage Prim, a great forward. I think watch out for them. I mean, I remember, Isaiah Mosley killed Bradley the first game, ripped their heart out, hit a crazy game winner. And then I want to say he dropped like 25 plus the second time they played him and just really put it on Bradley. Explosive offense, really good team. They're the 2 seed for a reason. But I mean, I just expect something crazy to happen like it does every year. I would not at all be surprised if Bradley on a neutral court beat Loyola. Like I said, I think they had their number. It seems like Bradley really turns it on in Arch Madness over the last couple of years. Last year, obviously not the case. Rough year for Bradley. A lot of injuries, a lot of personal stuff off the court.
Yeah.
With them, it was tough to see, especially going to school there, having so much success. The prior 2 years, it was an odd down year for Bradley. But I mean, it's tough to pick against a team like a Missouri State or a Northern Iowa. But again, I mean, Bradley split with Northern Iowa this year as well. So I'm picking Bradley to make it all the way, to keep riding high, make it all the way to the finals this year. I'll have a matchup with Missouri State. I think Missouri State, just with Prim and Mosley, I think they're going to be a handful for a lot of teams defensively. And if those two guys get it going, I mean, they can beat anybody in this tournament. And I mean, I think if they end up making it to the NCAA tournament, certainly an upset bid there. But yeah, I mean, I think my championship is set. I got Bradley, Missouri State. Don't ask me who wins yet because I'm not 100% sure. But if I had to, I mean, if I had to get a pick right now, I'll be a homer. Give me Bradley. Go Braves. I would love to see Kaboom's cute little ass back in the Missouri Valley Conference or back in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it was it's kind of funny you mentioned Kaboom. When I went to their March Madness game a few years ago, and Kaboom, the gargoyle, was the mascot, and a lot of people who didn't really know about Bradley but were there for the big name schools were like, "What the hell is that thing?" It was pretty funny, and there was actually a lot of Bradley fans that showed out to that. That was fun. Um, I'm really liking Northern Iowa in this. I think AJ Green. I know. I didn't say that they're gonna win the whole thing. I just said I like them. You can give me the thumbs down all you want. I do think AJ Green, though, from a consistency standpoint, having a leader like that at this point is super important. A guy that people can rally around. Because at this point it's about the consistency and being able to go out there every night and give a good team performance. And I feel like having a leader like that and having one of a pretty good base on that team that they've been building for years now, I feel like Northern Iowa is a real threat. I like Drake too. I think Drake is a really well balanced team. Looking at their scoring can come from a variety of guys, which means if one guy has an off night, the other ones hopefully will not follow suit. But it's hard because from a homer standpoint, I just want to say Bradley versus Drake in the final. But man, I think Northern Iowa is a really tough out, and my head says Northern Iowa versus Drake, and my heart says Bradley versus Drake. But I feel like Bradley's can be a little inconsistent this season, which means if they slip up a little bit at any point, even in like a stretch of a game, even like a 10-minute stretch, it could really hurt. Having that happen, so it's tough, man. I really want to be a homer. I do. So I would not be surprised though if anybody 1 through 5 made that push and won it all. I know a lot of casual fans who might not follow Missouri Valley much, or they saw the 2018 Loyola team and they know Loyola and Sister Jean, and they just say, oh, they're just going to run through the conference every year. But they're the 4 seed in this conference tourney. So interesting scenario. I think there's a lot of really well balanced teams this year. I think that anybody in the top 5 could really make that push. So my heart says Bradley, and a good part of my mind says Bradley, but the other part says a Drake UNI final with Drake booking their ticket. So, but again, man, it's tough. It's tough going against Bradley, man. It really is. And knowing that Bradley, that they have that experience, the coaching staff has that experience winning back-to-back titles. A lot of the players aren't there anymore. But knowing that experience has been built up in recent years, because Bradley had a long drought of not being able to get, besides a couple of blip years here and there of winning our conference tournament. So obviously we had the 2006 memorable run in March Madness, but I'm gonna take Drake to win the Missouri Valley, but don't sleep on Bradley, man. So
Yeah,
that's
big.
That's how I'm feeling about it.
Big storyline too for Drake. They get their senior guard Roman Penn back. Hurt his foot earlier in the season, was out for a good period of time, but says he's going to be back for Arch Madness. So I mean, if he can, it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be like. I mean, if he can come right out and knock the rust off. I mean, Drake's as good of a team as any. But yeah, you mentioned Loyola down to 4th. They were leading the conference for, I would say, probably 90% of the season, and had a really tough stretch toward the end of the year. I think they lost to Bradley. Obviously, I know they lost to Northern Iowa, lost to Drake pretty badly too. I mean, Loyola was ranked in the top 25 at one point this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, that just tells you how good of a program they're building. And I mean, just got to clap for Drew Valentine. I mean, Porter Moser, their coach, leaving for Oklahoma in the offseason, and for Valentine to just step right in, fill that head coaching void that Moser left, and really not miss a beat. I mean, hats off to him. And I mean, I was telling Eric before the start of the podcast that I saw in the latest bracketology, Northern Iowa is a 13 seed, and they're supposed to play Illinois in the first round. And I was like, I'm sick. No more Illinois playing goddamn Missouri Valley Conference teams. I can't watch them lose again this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Arch Madness, there's really nothing like it. I think it's one of, this could just be me as a Missouri Valley Conference fan saying it, but I mean, I just think nothing beats it. I mean, there's just something about the gotta win to get in mentality that I think brings out the best in this tournament. And I mean, all these teams are going to be hitting on all cylinders, and it's just going to be really exciting. I think every team has the weapons and the ability to get hot and beat anybody in this tournament. I think that's just what's so great about this. I mean, Loyola's got the experience. So many of those guys have been there before. You know, mentioned Lucas Williamson, and I mean, obviously losing Krutwig was huge. But I mean, same with all these guys. I mean, AJ Green's been here before. Bradley's been here before. If Bradley can get Jashawn Henry back, I don't think they will. He's been out for 10, 11, maybe even 12 games with a second head injury of the season. Came on the court briefly on senior night to just get a touch, and they fouled him immediately. Tough scene there. You'd hate to see a career potentially end that way, not being able to play on the floor. But I mean, if Bradley, by some stretch of an imagination or miracle, can get Jashawn Henry back, I mean, that could be a game changer right there. I mean, that guy was vital to Bradley going back to back in 19 and 20. And I mean, if he, I mean, and who's going to be more excited and want to contribute than him when he comes back? So yeah, I mean, Valley fans, strap in. This is going to be an incredible Arch Madness once again. I think you could see, I like you said, I really think teams 1 through 5, even 6, Southern Illinois, don't sleep on them. I really think any of these teams have the ability to shock the world and punch their ticket. And I mean, it wouldn't be the Valley if something crazy didn't happen. So, I mean, Northern Iowa, Missouri State, watch out. You're on upset alert. Playing one of the bottom 4 teams in the conference. But yeah, no, Bradley fans, you're in for a treat on Friday at 2:30. I'm excited. I know I've got to work, but I'm going to be listening to the game on my phone, and it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I am too. And I think if Bradley can, if they beat Loyola, end up playing UNI, I think we can really lock up AJ Green and then cause some problems with that. So,
kid's incredible.
He is, yeah. But it should be a lot of fun. And it's always fun to see tickets get punched to March Madness. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. But, yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on this episode? But
yeah, just jumping back to the UFC for a moment. If none of you guys out there have watched a UFC fight, I highly recommend doing it. There's just something about getting a little drunk with some of your buddies and watching people just beat the shit out of each other that it's unmatched. I mean, yeah, the Super Bowl is great. Don't get me wrong. All this stuff's all the other sports are great, but I mean, give the UFC some credit. They've got a great thing. Dana White's done a tremendous job with that company. And I mean, there's just something about a UFC fight on a Saturday. People just get in the cage, beat the hell out of each other. That it's just exciting. I mean, there really is nothing like violence like that. And I mean, it's great. If you haven't watched one, perfect weekend to tune in. Like I said, I really think this could be fight of the year candidate right out of the gate. I mean, we're only in March. There's still 9 more months of the year left. But I mean, this is one of my favorite fights of the year so far. And I mean, you could see fireworks on Saturday night. It's not even just the main event card, like you mentioned, Greg Hardy fighting Rafael Dos Anjos, some big names, Edson Barbosa. So I mean, some big names, some guys that have been around for a very long time. And I mean, it's going to be the UFC fans. If you're not a UFC fan, I just tune in. You don't even have to pay for it. You can illegally stream it. but not giving away any of my secrets.
What?
Yeah, not giving away any of my secrets. You're gonna have to find those websites on your own. But yeah, I mean, tune in if you're not doing anything on Saturday night. Flip it on, go nuts. It's gonna be great. You will not regret it. And if you do regret it, that's on me. But I have a hunch that you guys out there are gonna like it.
Yes, it sounds like we're not going to be getting any sponsorships anytime soon from those pay-per-view services, but but yeah, um, I will say I can attest to that. Me and one of my buddies, we came out to your house last summer and had a few cold ones, and sadly watched McGregor snap his leg, but um, yeah, it's still a fun time, and even if you have no idea who the dudes are in the lower card, it's still fun to watch that, and just any second something crazy can happen. So, um, yeah, I definitely will agree with that, and um, it's a good time. So, thank you everyone for listening to episode 17 of the Should Have Gone Pro podcast. We appreciate all your support. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gone Pro Pod. Um, and if you want us to talk about anything in particular, let us know. We were a little flexible the last couple of weeks, but we're gonna have some big stuff planned for March Madness. So stay tuned for that. Um, we might try and do a live stream of filling out our brackets. That could be a pretty fun idea. People could come out to that and chat with us about our picks and how stupid our Cinderella picks are until they actually become true. But yeah, we're getting to the really fun part of college basketball season where these games are really mattering, and we're getting the conference tournaments and everything like that. So stay tuned because we'll have some stuff coming. But we appreciate all the support. We'll be back next week with some more episodes. Have a great weekend, everyone, and enjoy Arch Madness and the fights. And we'll be back next week. So take care.